In America, everyone counts, and the 2020 census is how that great promise is kept. Respond today online, by phone, or by mail, and help inform hundreds of billions in funding for education, health programs, and more. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. Donald Trump gave one of the longest damn acceptance speeches ever last night, tallied more than an hour, no real vision forward. He did have a few black moments.
And to bring prosperity to our forgotten inner cities, we worked hard to pass historic criminal justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones, and long-term funding of historically black colleges and universities. And before the China virus came in, produced the best unemployment numbers for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Asian Americans ever recorded. And I say very modestly that I have done more for the African American community than any president since Abraham Lincoln, our first Republican president. And I have done more in 3 years for the black community than Joe Biden has done in 47 years. And when I'm reelected, the best is yet to come.
There were a couple of minor details that were left out there, Derek. One, touting black unemployment. Yep, number did go down.
We went through that, didn't we?
Number did go. What goes down did come up right now. It's at 14.6%. Donald Trump didn't even.
We went through that. I went you.
No, so I'm just saying. But to me, there's nothing more ignorant and ridiculous. It's for this fool to actually think, oh, I've done more for black people than any president since Lincoln. Now, if you start going through the Great Depression and FDR and the New Deal, if you talk about Truman desegregating the armed forces, and then a number of other different things. When you talk about President Lyndon Baines Johnson, Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act, Fair Housing Act, putting the initial pieces in place when it came to affirmative action, I mean, we can go down the line. In fact, if you want to even just say Republicans, fact of the matter is, Richard Nixon, if you read Bob Brown's book, Richard Nixon's efforts when it came to busing, second, when it came to affirmative action, third, when it came to investment in black businesses, Donald Trump can't even get close to that. But he ain't talking to black people, Derek. He ain't even talking to you, black conservatives. He really talking to the white people saying, I've been real good to the blacks. Your assessment.
You can feel okay.
No, hold up, Derek, your assessment.
I was going to say, yeah, well, I agree with you. Everything was about what you said about Nixon. And, Roland, I didn't pay a lot attention to the conventions because I knew it was going to be a lot of grandstanding on both sides. And to your point, he wasn't, I don't think a lot of blacks tuned in to the RNC convention. So I do think he was, for the most part, speaking to his base. And like I said, I didn't pay a lot to put a whole lot of credence, if you will, to either one of the conventions for that reason, because I knew there was going to be a lot of grandstanding for both sides. And for me personally, I think a lot, for the most part, except for independents, people have pretty much made up their mind about who they want to vote for come November.
I think, Amisha, I do believe that you have a small percentage of people, white independents, who could go either way. I do believe that. I think in many ways, this election is going to be like 2012. I remember after Obama was atrocious in that first debate, Democrats were losing their mind. Oh my God, he's going to lose this. Polling showed folks were not really going either way. This election is going to come down to two things. It's going to come down to turnout, and then it's going to come down to voter suppression. Today, a judge ruled in Iowa throwing out some 50,000 absentee ballots in Iowa because the information was filled in for the voter when it was sent to them by the local clerk. The Trump team, the Republican National Committee, they've already said they're going to send 50,000 poll watchers after that consent decree is no longer was invalidated after the last election. And they are going to be challenging mail-in ballots in every state. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. That's when the election is coming down. So, you know, people can sit here and talk about the pageantry, and I saw these conservatives saying, oh, Democrats and the whole deal with, you know, with the optics. They don't mean a damn thing. It's going to come down to turnout.
No, you're absolutely correct, Roland. This isn't a time where we're going to see Trump trying to expand his base. He hasn't tried to expand his base during the entire 4 years, and I don't think he's going to try to expand it by November 3rd. What he is trying to do, and what the Republican Party is helping him do, is ensure that there is large-scale voter suppression and voter disenfranchisement, whether that be by, you know, pushing these false narratives about there being a large amount of fraud and mail-in voting and there being problems with that, or just extremely long lines at polling stations, polling machines that don't work, polling stations closed down in certain areas. He is counting on African Americans staying home out of a sense of just apathy with the process, or not having their votes counted at all. And I think that, you know, the tragedy in all of this is that we have a president who does not really uphold democracy. He knows that he can't win this vote fair and square. He knows that this is going to be a race won within the margins. And instead of actively competing and actively pushing forward a policy that people can get behind, he's decided that he's just going to try to steal this election by whatever means necessary. And whatever means necessary is destroying mail-in ballots, utilizing the United States Postal Service to help him to do so. In addition to that, making sure that he has these states in his back pocket and governorships that are working against our democracy on a daily basis and are steadily trying to keep people off the rolls as we speak.
Derek, again, it was just laughable listening to. Listening to all of that. It was laughable. I'm sorry, Rob. Rob, go to you next. Rob, it was laughable listening to all of that. It was laughable in the fact that Donald Trump made no mention at all of any police shootings, of holding police accountable. There was this throwaway line in there about, yes, there's police misconduct. We will hold them to the letter of the law. But everything else was a full-on embrace, hug, you name it, when it comes to police. And so when I hear, and I'm going to play a video later, when I hear all of these conservatives say, Joe Biden needs to speak up more forcefully against these rioters out there, I'm like, when the hell are y'all going to say something?
That's what I'm saying. That's what look. It's fool's gold. It's actually a trap to try to fall into that narrative, because all this lawlessness, if he wants to call it that, is falling under his administration. So he's talking about all these things that are happening and saying what's going to happen if Joe Biden takes over. It's happening now. Like, so what are you talking about? It's under a Trump administration. So I actually think future Vice President Kamala Harris framed it in the right way. She's saying that he's responsible for not only these injustices with police, but he's responsible for the breakdown in the whole decay of us not having a civil way to come together, because he is exacerbating the problem. And so if you want real law and order, which just doesn't mean like cops get to do whatever they want and kill people, that's not law and order. It's real justice. Then we'll have a real administration, and we will do that, and we'll hold those people accountable, including people like the guy who I forgot the guy's name, who shot and killed 2 or 3 protesters in Wisconsin.
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yes, he needs to be held accountable. He was able to go out and do this shooting and walk past the police officer like all is cool. I mean, law and order is out of control in this country, and it's because of Donald J. Trump, and we need to change administrations. If you want to keep going the way we are, then I guess you can go with this president. This is Trump's America. So I don't even understand the argument he was making.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Unfiltered video in just one moment. As our community comes together to support the fight against racial injustice, I want to take a second to talk about one thing we can do to ensure our voices are heard. Not tomorrow, but now. Have your voices heard in terms of what kind of future we want by taking the 2020 census today at 2020census.gov? Now, folks, let me help you out. The census is a count of everyone living in the country. It happens once every 10 years. It is mandated by the U.S. Constitution. The thing that's important is that the census informs funding, billions of dollars, how they are spent in our communities every single year. I grew up in Clinton Park in Houston, Texas, and we wanted new parks and roads and a senior citizen center. Well, the census helps inform all of that and where funding goes. It also determines how many seats your state will get in the U.S. House of Representatives. Young black men and young children of color are historically undercounted, which means a potential loss of funding or services that helps our community. Folks, we have the power to change that. We have the power to help determine where hundreds of billions in federal funding go each year for the next 10 years. Funding that can impact our community, our neighborhoods, and our families and friends. Folks, responses are 100% confidential and can't be shared with your landlord, law enforcement, or any government agency. So please, take the 2020 census today. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov.